Hello everyone, I'm going to give a brief overview of Dashware, and this is going to be specifically designated towards producing overlays and using Chroma Key and manipulating a custom dashboard toolbox gauge. This is going to specifically be applicable towards the Q500 Plus and with the newest version that was released July of 2015, that where the receiver or the transmitter produces telemetry data, as well as implementing that telemetry data in Dashware to have nice overlays for your footage that you've captured with your quad. So I've got Dashware before me here. I'll provide links in the description below to download everything that's needed so that you'll successfully be able to produce an overlay for your Q500. So we're going to begin, and you'll need to have captured footage from your Q500 Plus and captured the telemetry data with your transmitter. You'll have needed to copy that both from your card, and I've got some here, the telemetry data from the transmitter and a piece of footage that I was just in the front yard, flew around to capture this telemetry data. You're going to need to get both pieces, both the footage and the data. The telemetry data is going to come off of your receiver, the micro SD card that's beneath the battery, and the footage from your camera. So I'm going to create a new project, and I've got a template that I'm going to also provide that's going to provide this Chroma Key overlay for you. And let's see where we've got that. I'll just go with a new project, and I'm going to select from the project templates a template that I've created called My Chroma Key Template. Alright, so with this I've already applied a couple of templates from the Gauge toolbox that is going to be part of this project template that you'll be able to download, just to simplify things. I've got some basic telemetry information here: the airspeed, the altitude, vertical speed, the heading, compass heading, takeoff distance, that's a distance from your transmitter to your aircraft, and then the distance that it's traveled overall, along with latitude and longitudinal information, and the number of satellites that you have acquired, and then another visual on your altitude. Now, to get started under project, you're going to add video, which is the video that we've brought off of our camera, and we're going to click the plus sign to bring that in and simply select it. Okay. Now we still got another thing to do. We need to import this data, but the data in the way that it comes off out of our transmitter is incorrect. And what we need to do is we need to use another program. It's called ST2Dash. So I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to put a link to that in the description below. This is it, and it's going to make some changes to the telemetry data so that it's going to work with Dashware for your Q500 Plus. So we're going to say our source file is going to be that telemetry data file here. We're going to select that. This says leave checked. However, every time I have, the program has crashed. So I've learned just to take the check out. Now we're going to tell it the write log, and that's going to be the file that we're going to save the conversion of this telemetry data. I'm just going to call it converted, and I'll click save. At this point I'm going to click start, and it will have converted that information into a usable format for the Q500. So we're done there. Now we're going to browse for that data file that we've just converted from our telemetry file that we pulled off our transmitter. So we're going to browse for that, and it's going to be the one that we just converted. We're going to select that, and it's got a profile that is required to also be in part of your Dashware setup. Now it's identifying as a Q500 version 1.4 firmware. Now this file, I'm going to open up my computer here and show you where it needs to go. Under your C drive, look for your users directory. Then look for the account that you're operating under. I'm under an administrator account. You're also going to go into My Documents, and then where you've installed Dashware, you're going to go into that folder, and you're going to look for Data Profiles. Okay, this is where you're going to paste that Yuneec Q500 file. This is another one that's out and that's available. However, I found that it does not work. So you're going to take the file that you'll download from the description, named Yuneec Q500 version 1.4, and you're going to place it in your users, your account, My Documents, Dashware, Data Profile. And once you've done that, you'll need to have done that and put that in place before you start up Dashware and begin what we're doing now. But once we've selected our CVS file that's been converted, our telemetry data, we're going to choose Add. Okay, now it's added it to our project, and what we have to do at this point is perform the synchronization. Okay, and in order to do that, we're going to take this template that we've got under our project. All right, that's going to be our Chroma Key template. I'm going to go in and edit that by double clicking it, and for right now I'm going to tell this that I need the transparency to be way down so that I can see through this. Okay, so I'm just going to continue to click this until it's completely transparent. It takes a few clicks, so I guess I could just zero that out manually. Alright, and then I'm going to close that and I'm going to save it temporarily. And you see we've removed the blue and have only remaining is our gauges. Now it's needed because we need to reference this telemetry data with our footage. This is not as drag and drop as you might hope it is. You still got to do some synchronization, and what that means is you've got to synchronize the data with the footage. So if I were to play through this, if I were to scrub through this here, you see I've started my camera and I've started my transmitter at different times, and that's where the synchronization occurs, because once you start your transmitter and fire up the props on your quad, it's beginning to record telemetry data, and you may have fired up your camera either earlier or later. So we've got to synchronize our telemetry data with our footage. So what I do is I always look for, I'm going to watch this information here, the vertical speed and the altitude, and I'm going to scrub through. I may even just click play on my footage and see when it lifts up. And when it lifts up, I'll hit pause. Right now the props are just spinning and it's sitting idle. And I'm going to continue to watch this information of the telemetry data. Alright, so now I'm going to step back frame by frame just a little bit where I can see when it first moves. Okay, so it looks like if I go forward one frame, it's just started to move. Now, when I click play on my project over here, you can see that I've got telemetry data there that I need to have it initiate its altitude at the same point in time where my video, I've paused it. So I'm going to play that, and I'm going to watch for my altitude to jump up, indicating that the telemetry is matching my footage. So as you see, this is playing. I'm going to keep watching that and my altitude, and as soon as I see that altitude jump, I'm going to pause my telemetry information over here. It takes a little bit of getting used to, and it's not 100% accurate, and the best you can hope for is getting it as accurate as you can see. So it's still playing. And once we get a surge in this altitude, we'll go ahead and pause our telemetry data, and then we're going to sync it with our video. So it's still going. Another way is to scrub through this, but I found if you just let it play and be patient, you get a little more accurate reading, because you're still going to tweak this a frame or two forward or backward just to get it accurate. And you can see that there's a big deviation in the length of the telemetry information versus the length in the footage. And this can only be just a few seconds, but in the scheme of things, the precision is not as drag and drop as you might hope for. And so effectively our video footage is paused, but it's paused at the state where it was just about to lift off, and I'm watching my telemetry to match that information or match that visual. So we're going to be there any second. We're getting some altitude, so I'm going to pause it right there. It's showing our altitude is 2 foot, so I'm going to back up just a couple of clicks here, incrementally, frame by frame. I'm going to watch that just until it says possibly 1 or 0. Get it as close as we can. You hear them just click, 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 about right there. Okay, so at this point I'm going to click sync to video, sync with video. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and play this, and you should see we should be fairly close. There's a little bit of a lag, a little bit of a delay in our telemetry. It's showing our altitudes at 2 foot, so we're off considerably. I think what we had there was a bit of a glitch in that just with the fluctuations of the satellite information. So we want to play that back again. Shows us at about 2 foot. I'm going to turn the sync off, and I'm going to play this forward a little bit more until I get a little bit closer in my altitude to the delay that we just observed. So it's playing forward. You see it's back to 0 there with our telemetry data. Just let it keep playing until we see some substantial movement in our telemetry. So it should, any moment now, we should see some altitude data come across. Keep an eye on the altitude. It's getting ready. Okay, so I'm going to pause it. I'm going to go back 2 clicks, 2 or 3 clicks. Maybe about right here, although there's some delay in that telemetry being captured and written to a file. So I'm going to say that we're good about right there. And we can further observe this as we play through when we get into a hovering altitude. So I'm going to go ahead and play. And so we're up about 9, 12, 15, 18. We're looking a little closer, 30. We've got some forward speed. And we're up. We can see our altitude increasing. And we're going to get into a hover here at about 62 feet. So we know that we're in sync with our telemetry in regards to our visual, that we're receiving feedback from the video. A little yaw here, reduced our elevation about a foot, give or take. We're not any forward movement, any speed. We're maintaining our altitude. Our heading won't change until we move that direction. We'll rotate, and then you'll see once we move that direction, our heading will adjust to reflect that. Still holding our altitude 62 feet. Heading has just updated. We're moving that direction, maintaining our altitude. So it looks like we've synchronized our telemetry data with our video. Now at this point, we've completed that part of the process. So what we can do is we're going to go back in, we're going to double click on this area, because what we have is our Chroma Key project file superimposed on our footage. And if I double click this, it's going to let me bring that back up where previously we had reduced the transparency to 0. We're going to bump that transparency all the way up so that we're seeing all our blue in its entirety. Takes a little while. There seems to be a little bit of lag built into this program. nonetheless, it's great if you're willing to go through a few steps. Okay, we're at 100% opacity. So we can close that out and we're going to save it. Now what we've effectively done is we've taken our template, our project toolbox template, and we've hidden the footage beneath it. But that's okay, because what we're going to do is in either After Effects or any other video editor that you have access to that has the ability to pull a Chroma Key, we're going to pull this out and provide a better quality render of the footage. And what this does is it lets us export this with the blue intact, and later on we can remove that blue without going through the render settings that this Dashware provides, because it provides a rather low quality video output, and we want to retain quality. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to File, Create Video, okay, and I'm going to uncheck, these are your different settings, these are the input settings of the video that you've brought in, and here's where we're going to manipulate how we're going to encode this. I'm going to leave everything at default with the exception of the quality. I'm going to take the checkbox out and I'm going to pull it up to 100% and get maximum quality. I'm going to browse to where I want to save this file, and I'm just going to call this Chroma. That way I'll know what this is. And I'm going to go ahead and create the video. This will take about, I don't know, 15-20 minutes or so. This program encodes relatively slow. So I'm going to go ahead and code that, and then we're going to move on to the next step. So I'll click Create Video. It's got a potential amount of time. It's just 20 minutes. You'll see this number will fluctuate, but we'll come right back once this is completed, and then we'll move into After Effects. All right, so it's completed rendering, and we've got our file, the Chroma file here. And what we're going to use is we're going to use this in After Effects to remove the blue so that we can further give a better quality overlay on our video and be able to get a better control of the render rather than use the render that's available in Dashware. So remember, all the settings, all the files, everything you need will be in the description below, and hopefully you'll be able to follow along and put these all in the correct place to use if you're working with the Q500 Plus. So I'm going to close this down. Don't need to save it. And let's go ahead and I'll fire up After Effects. And I'm going to try to get this guy scaled up to my screen here. Get it in a orientation where everybody can get a look at it. Alright, so what we're going to do is in our project, we're going to take our footage that we've rendered. We're going to drag in our footage, our flight footage, okay, and then we're going to take our Chroma footage that we created in Dashware, and we're going to drag that into our project, to our composition. Alright, so we're going to take our footage and we're going to drag that into a new composition. Alright, and we're going to take our Chroma footage and we're going to drag that just above that so that it's on top. Now, under your effects and presets, we're going to search for Key, and in After Effects there's a built-in feature called Key Light, and we're going to drag that right on top of our Chroma keyed footage. And under Key Light, we're going to take our eyedropper and we're going to take and select the color we want to remove, which is the blue. So when I do that, you see that effectively we remove that blue footage that we went through all the trouble of putting in before. But what that's going to do is going to allow us to get a better render out of After Effects versus the one built into Dashware. Okay. Now there's another thing I like to do, because if you scrub through this footage, you'll notice that it's rather hard to see this light color. So what I'm going to do is under our effects and presets is I'm going to look for drop shadow, and I can just type in drop and scroll down, and drop shadows right here. I'm going to drag that on that same piece of footage. Now you'll see that it puts in a drop shadow for us. What I like to do is I like to knock the opacity up to about 100% so it's nice and vivid, and then I'll put a softness on there of about 5 just to soften that out. So if you see, if I do a 100% zoom on this and press spacebar on my keyboard, you'll see I've got nice shadow around that right now. So it just makes that a little more visible when you're looking at your telemetry information on your footage. So I'll tell that to fit. Now at this point, if you're not real familiar with After Effects, you'll need to render this out to a file. So I'll go ahead and do that, show you that process. Under Composition, Do, add to Render Queue, and you're going to pick as a codec that you'll render this out that's as lossless as possible. Now for me, I'm going to use the AVI container, and for the codec I'm going to use Lagarith. It's a large file, but it's lossless. For the sake of this discussion, it's virtually lossless. So I'll say OK. I don't have any audio in here, so I'm not going to output the audio, and I'll tell it to turn the audio output off. Okay. At this point, I'm going to tell it where to output this to, and I can simply at this point browse to a location, tell it where I want to save it. I can call this final, okay, and then click Save. At that point, I would hit Render. Now I've already rendered it, and this render takes a good half hour, 45 minutes or so, just because it's 1080p footage and you've got a few filters and effects applied. The render time is lengthy. So once we've rendered that, by clicking Render, we will end up with a file that looks like, I don't need to save that, that looks like, let's see here. I'll look under Date Modified. That way it'll help me find it a little bit better. Right here. Okay, so let me pause this. I'm going to make this the size of our little window here. Alright, go ahead and play, and you'll see that we've got our drop shadows on, our telemetry information, we've got it synced up, we've got the number of satellites that are going to be visible. Let me see if I can make this a little bit larger to fit in our window here. Something about like that, look a little bit better, a little more full screen. But you can see that it's all functional. We've got our altitude. Our video is nice and clean. Of course, by the time this ever hits YouTube, it'll be muddied up. You know how YouTube is. It tends to degrade your video regardless of what your effort is. So you can see now that we have a basic set of dashboard gadgets, dashboard controls displayed here, gauges, and we've got a little bit better visual in regards to how we can see these, especially because we've put our drop shadows behind them. So I hope you find this interesting, and I hope it helps you guys. Remember, you're going to need all the latest firmware, and should be running 1.4 on your Q500, and again, everything's going to be in the description below. So talk to you later. Bye bye.